This program was first broadcast on Canterbury's community access radio station Plains FM 96.9 and was made with the assistance of New Zealand On Air.
Good morning, Bliss lovers. It is Rebecca Davison here, founder of the Intuitive Life Academy. Welcome to the Find Your Bliss radio show here on Plains FM, broadcasting to you live every 9 o'clock on a Thursday morning, where we talk about all things spiritual, metaphysical, intuitive, and psychic. So this morning we are talking about authenticity being freedom. And I love this topic because I think authenticity is kind of a buzzword that a lot of people feel into, but they don't necessarily, it's not necessarily, doesn't have a huge amount of clarity. So what does it mean to be authentic? It means to be your true self. It means to be genuine. Now, the interesting thing though is when we start looking at what is your true self, it is, from spiritual terms, it is your infinite self. It is, you're not your mind, you're not your body, you're not your ego, you're not your attitudes, you're not your beliefs. You are something beyond that. And that's what occurs, of course, when we have spiritual awakening, as we realize that we're the one not having the thoughts, we're the one observing our thought processes. So that is your authentic self, the part of you that knows everything. So we're going to unpack this a little bit in terms of what is authentic and what's not authentic, and then we're going to have a look in regards to how you can create more authenticity in your own life. And why would you even want to do that, right? So just as a personal story, once upon a time, you guys know, if you've been tuning into the Find Your Bliss show for a while, that I worked in banking for about 13 years. And it was an amazing experience in regards to contrast, right? In terms of what it was that I didn't want. And it took me a long time to realize that there was nothing wrong with me. It's just that my values and the values of that institution were very different. I valued freedom, pleasure, and abundance, and their value set was probably more on, making money for shareholders. That was always reiterated to us that was important. But what I felt when I was working there a lot of the time, like I used to say to my mom, right, I feel like I have to wear armor to go to work, right? There's a layer of defense between me and the people working in that establishment, that I had to wear, a mask to kind of show up and present myself in order to be accepted. Now that, of course, is very inauthentic behavior and thought process, that it wasn't safe for me to really be me because I wouldn't be accepted. And I very much did feel like that, being a person who values spirituality in a corporate and banking environment. It felt very, the contrast was great. I couldn't talk about spirit, the divine, your infinite self, the Akashic records, your past lives, all of those things that actually can help and contribute to our healing journey. It didn't feel like it was acceptable. People would look at you like you were crazy, right? Like you were completely crackers if you started bringing that information up around the morning tea table. So it was a circumstance where, every day you kind of put your uniform on, and the uniform kind of became part of it, where you would put it on and then you would present, you would put your makeup on, you'd put your uniform on, and you were showing up kind of like a character. And then going into, this work environment and interacting, but doing it from a place of the real me is behind here, and I have this kind of mask in front of me, and that's how I'm operating within my interactions with other people. So just to give you guys a bit of a background. So, but being aware of that in the moment, in your body and in your energy, excuse me, it was really confronting in a lot of ways, because you knew that you were being disingenuous. You knew that you weren't being your true self. But you also were perceiving that your true self wasn't accepted. And this is the journey of discovering ourselves, is realizing that there's nobody doing that to us. we are doing it to ourselves. We're the ones who are going, I don't have permission to talk about what it is that I love. I don't have permission to speak my truth. I'm not allowed to say what it is that I want to say. We're the ones who are doing that to ourselves, as opposed to thinking that other people are doing it to us. Now, and I know, right, your brain might go, or your ego might go, oh no, yeah, it's definitely other people doing that to me. But no, it's not, because you can change that environment. You can step out of it. You can move away from it. You can create a different environment. You can create a different paradigm. And I know this is a big thing for people who are looking to follow the intuitive pathway, which is where they feel like they can't talk about their spiritual, intuitive awareness or insights with other people, with like regular people. I've even heard people say with muggles, right? With people who are non-magical, I guess, in that spirit. But again, when you step into that and you actually go, I see myself as separate, you're reinforcing duality, which is inevitably going to end up hurting you, the separation between yourself and other people. So how do we reconcile this? How do we go from, wow, I don't feel like I can be my true self, and those, I'm sorry, that's my phone notifications. I'm actually using my dad's phone, so my apologies. I don't know how to turn off those notifications. So talking about how do we shift from knowing that, we're developing our intuition, and and I can remember having a conversation with somebody once about how, once upon a time I couldn't talk about spirituality or intuition with anybody, and now I talk about it with everybody. Because I've created a life where I have those conversations all day, every day, which is amazing for me in terms of being authentic, because that's what I'm truly passionate about and that's what I'm interested in. And I don't have any limitations in regards to those conversations. I don't have anybody in my life and world where I don't feel like I can show up and be myself. Right? And even if I was showing up and being myself, and if they didn't like it, it would just be like oil and water. It's like, okay, you go your way, I'll go my way. There's no harm done, but just a choice. Whereas once upon a time, you felt like you're in an environment where you kind of had to play the game, which is actually a creed from a school here in Christchurch, right? Play the game. But we don't want to do that, not if the game's not great. So let's look at what it is to be authentic, and then we'll look at inauthenticity by contrast. So some of the qualities of an authentic person, right, is they are introspective. They can take their attention inwards. They can look at their own inner world. They know what it is that they're committed to and passionate about. Often we kind of judge people's authenticity on their willingness or their ability to be passionate about, what lights them up. They're following an internal compass. They're not adhering or surrendering to peer pressure. They're not going into the external and needing validation or approval from other people. They're not kind of giving their power away by doing that either. So they don't look to other people for approval. They're living to their own values. For me, I think authenticity is when what you think and what you say and what you do are all consistent. You're not thinking something and then saying something else to another person and then doing something else. Just as I drove in this morning, I've been staying at my mom's place because I'm actually getting a new roof at the moment. And I was listening to Joe Dispenza, Supernatural. If you haven't got it, listen to it, embody it. That's why I actually got it on audio, a CD, because I wanted to embody the energy consistently, because reading a book sometimes is great. But if you're really looking to embody and assimilate something, you want to listen to it over and over and over and over again, right? Get it into the subconscious. And listening to how much your emotions impact your physical health and how important that is. And it's really interesting because he was talking about, it wasn't that long ago, there was a doctor who discovered, what did he call them? But basically they're pathways that ascend from the heart up into the mind. And I think also what happens is when you move into states of greater authenticity, it's literally improving your health because you're not running incoherent behavior. If you've got your mind over there thinking one thing and then you're saying something else and then you're doing something else, you're not in congruent energy. you're kind of scattered, right? You're being all over the place. That creates an incongruent or incoherent heart rhythm even. That's stress. A lot of people experience stress on a day-to-day basis. There's healthy stress and there's negative stress. You can tell if you're negative stress, your energy is going to be scrambled. You're not going to be feeling whole. You're not going to be feeling relaxed. You're not going to be feeling lit up. And this is super important in terms of how you expend your energy. You only have so much energy or bandwidth that you can use each day, but your body is an oscillating field of energy. You want that energy to be running in the right direction to support your health, so you have the energy available to be able to go out and create. If you're spending time thinking about a problem or an issue and you're feeling like it's not ever going to be resolved or it's causing you stress, that creates incoherence in your energetic field, and that eventually can lead to stress and dis-ease, like heart disease. So, you might think on one level that striving to be more authentic is an admirable cause, but it is literally important for your health on the deepest level, on the most profound levels. Like, I look back to when I was in banking, and the amount of stress that I was under was just insane. And it's amazing. What's amazing, because there's always a deadline, right? There's always a deadline. There's always more work to do. There wasn't always, like, they did have good support systems in place, but often important people that you needed support from weren't always there when you needed the support. But it just amazed me. There's always a sales target, right? Always. So it was amazing how much your body can adapt to stress. That's what amazed me actually about leaving the bank. I reckon it took me about 18 months to unravel from all that stress that my body was under. And again, that is not authentic behavior, right? If I was being authentic, I would have a much better gauge of where my stress level was starting to send me into incoherence. So I could say, hey, guys, I'm out of alignment. I need to do something to shift this, rather than just keep on, staying at work later and doing more hours and feeling more stressed, and therefore pressuring myself to try and get the work done faster or quicker. Which invariably ends up to, work quality dropping, making mistakes, files not getting audited, or when they got audited that they wouldn't pass. Just takes me back. So let's look at what being inauthentic is. Inauthentic behavior. Actually, let's start with authentic, because then we can see the contrast. So authentic people, they have a realistic view of reality, right? They they understand, they have an understanding of how life works, of course. They're going to be accepting of themselves and other people. If you're authentic, you probably have less resistance than somebody who is inauthentic and they're experiencing more resistance. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. Thoughtful, like being aware of how other people are. One of the first ways I started developing my intuition was in banking and reading the people in the office and kind of going, what's their energy like? What's going on with them? How are they feeling? Just being the observer of other people's oscillating fields of energy. Non-hostile sense of humor. Right, this is interesting too, right? When you're being authentic, you don't need to put other people down, right? When you're being authentic, you're coming from a greater place of wholeness. And we'll look at this from authenticity, and then I'll kind of ratchet it up and go into that spiritual realm. Because if you're looking at spiritual authenticity, what is your infinite self? It is whole and complete, and it doesn't have any need for anything outside of itself. So if you're going into because a lot of humour, obviously, there's always a seed of truth in it. That's what makes it funny. But oftentimes, humour can be directed in ways that are unkind, right? A little bit cutting. We don't want to necessarily, and we can often think, right, this is almost unconscious in a lot of times and places, where somebody says something and it's funny and we laugh because we can see the humour in it, but it's not actually that kind. And even noticing that for yourself, right? If you're laughing at humour, or if you're recognizing that humour, is it actually funny? That's why that comedian, that Scottish comedian, is great. His name's Danny Boy, right? Because his humour was never attacking other people. And then you'll have other people and they're just slaying other people, and you can feel the difference, right? So able to express emotions freely and clearly. If you're authentic, you know what your emotions are and you can express them. Now, this might seem like elementary, dear Watson, but I tell you what, there are so many people who don't know how to identify their emotions, let alone feel them, let alone express them. Right? If you want to be authentic, you will do what it takes to get clarity on your emotions. And this is where some of this work can get a little bit harder, right? Because of going and being present to our emotions, we don't get taught how to do it. In fact, society often endorses that we just get over it, or we go to the next thing, or we choose something that's going to help us shift our state, so we don't want to feel that anymore. So I'm just going to choose that video game, that soft drink, to go shopping, whatever it is, the distraction. And then we end up in a situation where we have all these emotions that have been unprocessed and they're kind of backing up, and we're like, oh, I don't want to go there, right? And this is where that introspection, the ability to bear witness to yourself, is a huge part of being authentic. It means you're willing to be present to you because you care enough about yourself to want to be there, to go, your emotions are important. You don't want to rationalize your emotions. You know, a number of times I've seen this with clients where they go, oh, you know, they've experienced something traumatic in their past and they've rationalized it, which means they've taken it up to their headspace and they're trying to basically think their way out of an emotion. Can't do that with emotion. That's not the purpose of emotion. Emotion is there to be felt. It's information. It's a guidance system. Often emotion just is looking to be witnessed. It's looking to be loved. I've talked about this extensively, like how your jealousy, your hurt, your rage, your pain, your suffering is actually just looking for your love and acceptance. And knowing how to do that, that takes skill and practice. And it's not something that we yet taught in school, but it's often, of course, something as adults, we're standing up in the office and we're going, oh my goodness, you know, like, what do I do? I'm feeling this way and I'm not expressing it. I'm not actually being authentic. I'm not saying to the board in this meeting, you know what, I'm exhausted. I've had a really bad morning. My mom's sick. And this is where I'm at in terms of what is available to present to you. You know, we don't do that. So again, being in that space too, right, where we start being more authentic means to be more vulnerable. Okay, so non-hostile sense of humour, able to express our emotions freely, learning from our mistakes. All right, and again, you know, this is why if we're not aware of our subconscious and our patterns, we can just keep on going, making the same mistakes over and over again. And have you ever noticed, folks, how the universe in its infinite wisdom will know exactly if you've got the message or learnt the lesson? Because if you haven't, it will present it again for you to get it, right? Like the universe keeps on bringing you the same pattern of energy until you've actually resolved it, which is a gift, really. It doesn't necessarily feel like it at the time, right? You can feel like the universe is beating you up or life is being cruel. But if you haven't learnt from your mistakes, the lesson will keep on being presented until you get the message. So if you're in a place of contrast or distress, you want to start asking questions. Have I been in this circumstance before? Often this shows up in clients with dating, right? That they're going out with a different person, but the same pattern of energy is there. Like maybe the person is not very kind. Maybe they're a bit cruel with their jokes, right? Maybe they're not very good in regards to their attention. So starting to recognize that. Okay, so learning from our mistakes, right? Have we got the message? Have we actually taken, oh, look, I've got this pattern of energy that I'm perpetuating by continuing to deny to myself that this is a problem, right? Again, another part of being authentic is that you will be blisteringly honest with yourself. You will keep on asking the question, show me the truth, right? You'll keep on asking the question, where am I in denial? Where am I lying to myself? What's the benefit of lying to myself? You know, people do this unconsciously all the time because we don't, you know, our ego often is striving for us to want to be right. And again, then what happens if our ego's kind of pushing like I'm right, we will kind of avoid all the parts and places of ourselves where we're actually lying to ourselves about what is occurring. You know, it can be quite stunning in its, not difficulty, but complexity maybe in regards to how humans, we have a lot of unconscious bias and we don't even know that we have it. So we need to be starting to be really honest with ourselves and asking those questions. What is it that I'm not actually seeing here about myself? What is it that I'm trying to protect myself from? This shows up especially when we have a cross purpose and energy. For example, we want to create something, but there's some other energy or pattern that's in the way that's holding us back from having that experience. Those energies are crossing over, so you're not actually getting to what it is that you want because you've got this conflicting energy that's holding you back from having that experience. We need to be willing to be able to go, wow, that's even there, right? For example, I really value spending time with my family, but I'm working 80 hours a week. That is a cross purpose. You need to start unpacking that and going, well, what makes me think that I can't spend more time with my family and still make more money? What would it take for that to be my reality? Because this is what people do, right? They have a belief that says, oh, I've got to work 80 hours to be paid to be able to support my family, rather than going, what can I do to change my reality so I'm making more money and I have more time, right? Like we often get so focused on the problem that we don't ever stop to go, okay, let's create some space for the solution to appear. Okay, so learning from our mistakes and understanding your own motivations, right? You've got to know yourself to understand what motivates you. What motivates you to go out and do anything? Because if you can identify this and you can make sure that your motivation is in alignment with your values, you will go very far, very fast. Right? If you understand what makes you tick, you can use that information and direct that energy in the right direction. And that's when you'll start getting traction, right? That's when you see people and their businesses just take off, right? Like Matt Jones, I don't know if you guys have seen on my YouTube channel, I've done some work with Matt Jones, who's the CEO of Advanced Safety. He actually also has a radio show here at Plains FM that he does called, I think it's Safety Unplugged. Anyway, just watching him come into alignment with his value proposition, and then his business just took off, literally went from zero to hero in a really short period of time because he got lined up, right? Got lined up with what he valued. He got lined up about what he was passionate about, and the traction was just enormous. He saw a gap in the market as well. He went for it and has created this amazing business, in a very short period of time. And again, for us, we want to start looking at, well, what does motivate me? What excites me? What am I passionate about? What is it that I do stand for, as opposed to, not being passionate. And again, sometimes we can be hard on ourselves and go, oh, I don't know, right? I don't know what I'm passionate about, because we're in the status quo, right? We've accepted things that, I have to have this job, or I have to have this reality, or this is just the way that it is. We've gone into a default position. So sometimes we don't know what motivates us. So sometimes it's always good to play the game of contrast and go, okay, well, what do I find? What is it that I don't stand for, right? Go to the contrast energy. What do I think is unjust? What is it that, where do I lose energy? Sometimes that can be easier to see and identify. And then sometimes, yes, it is appropriate to just flip that. For example, if you get demotivated by injustice, then obviously you're going to get motivated where things are fair. Right? And again, what does it take to kind of go, okay, well, if I know that motivates me, how do I create more of that in my life and world in terms of being able to bring the energy that's going to propel me forward into a new reality? So again, this is why we want to do the internal work and ask ourselves questions. Your most valuable skill set as a human is self-inquiry. Was it Plato or Socrates who said, know thyself, right? Because pretty much nothing else matters. If you don't know yourself, then you're not going to know about what it is that you want. You're not going to know what motivates you. You're not going to know what you're passionate about. You're not going to know what you're not passionate about. And again, we want to just do the work of starting to ask questions and know ourselves to be able to get more clarity. So when we have the clarity, it's easy to propel our energy forward in the direction that we want it to go. So let's talk about inauthenticity for a minute. So obviously, again, the opposite. if you have a realistic perception of reality, then obviously if you're inauthentic, you're not going to have a realistic perception of reality. You're probably going to be doing some more of that self-deception, right? Like when I was at the bank and I couldn't figure it out, right? Like, and again, I was deceiving myself, not from a place of malice, from a place of ignorance, really, because I was like, what is wrong with me? I'm in this working environment and I don't love it, and something's not gelling, right? Something's not coming together. Could not see the wood for the trees. That was about my value proposition. I did not value the same things. Again, identifying, that's why I always talk in the Intuitive Life Academy that it's about freedom, pleasure, and abundance, because those are my values. So as my business, as my academy, the Intuitive Life Academy, the values of that are freedom, pleasure, and abundance. I want everybody who joins the academy to experience those things. I want us to co-create that. I want us to support each other in creating that for each other in each other's lives. I'm hugely passionate about it. Freedom is one of my highest values. I have always, the feeling of freedom, which is probably why I don't have children. It's probably why I love to travel. It's probably why, if anything in my life or reality looks like it's going to start controlling me, I am out of there, right? But I know that about myself. So do you know that about yourself in terms of what do I value and am I living my values? Because I tell you what, if you know what your values are and then you're actually living them, your happiness is going to exponentially increase. You're going to feel more fulfilled, you're going to feel more satisfied, you're going to feel more whole, and you're going to feel happier as a byproduct of that. Okay, so you're not lying to yourself. If you're being inauthentic, you will be having some self-deception. Inauthenticity is looking to other people for approval, and I know this is actually really common, right? Are you doing that? Ask yourself, to what level am I actually looking to other people for approval? Is it a 1 out of 10? Is it a 10 out of 10? You're going to know, right? You're going to feel it in your body and in your awareness. How much time do you spend thinking about other people? Whew, right? And is it from a place of I'm sending them love and blessings and light and energy and a positive vibration? Or is it like, oh, I can't believe they said that? Or, kind of a bickering that goes on in your mind, that can destroy you in terms of the relationship that you're having with yourself. They don't love me, they don't like me. How do you actually know unless you've actually asked them? Even if they've been snippy, right? It's our interpretation of what they're doing. Sometimes a person comes across, again, if they're not being authentic, they could come across and say something to you, and then you could interpret that in a completely negative way, and that wasn't even their intentional meaning, but it's just created havoc in your own energy and your own mind. Right? So again, not looking to other people for approval. And I tell you what, again, can you feel the freedom in that? You feel the freedom in, I'm not looking to anybody else for approval. So good. It is so good. So good, right? I've been fortunate, though, in this respect, that I've kind of been like that since I was a child. But I can see, definitely as an adult, it's probably veered more towards like, oh, what are other people saying or thinking, or do they like what I'm wearing? And now, I guess, getting older as well, it's just kind of like a zero interest in really other people, especially too, you don't want to take criticism or judgment from people who aren't in your same arena. Like Brené Brown talks about this, right? Like, why would you take criticism from somebody who's, you don't take criticism from, if you're in the ring as the gladiator, you're not going to take criticism from people who are in the stands, right? You're going to take feedback from somebody else who's also in the ring with you. So being very aware of that, if somebody's an observer of your reality and they're kind of throwing popcorn at you or throwing cheap shots at you, you're not going to allow that to land in your energy field because they don't have any only frame of reference of what your reality is actually like. Now, this is actually really true for everybody, no matter who it is, right? Even if it's your partner, your mentor, your coach, etc. That's why we want to know ourselves really deeply, right? Can that person actually really give us advice or constructive feedback on what's actually happening in our reality if they haven't experienced it the way we have? The answer is probably no, to a point, or no, because we need to be the ones, right? We need to be the ones to go, is this right for me? Is this a good choice? Is this a good... And again, that comes back to accountability. Where there's authenticity, there will always be accountability. People struggle with accountability. If you're in blame or judgment, and letting go of that to step into accountability, it can be really confronting. People can really struggle with it. But I tell you what, again, it is so liberating. If you are actually prepared to be the person who's going to say, I take 100% accountability for the way that my life is, because my life is the culmination of all the choices that I have made to this point in time, then I tell you what, you're going to experience so much freedom. Granted, some of it's going to be like, oof, because, there's going to be things in your life where you're like, oh, I don't like that, I don't love that experience. But if you take responsibility and accountability for it 100% and say, okay, because you are the one who is responding to what is occurring. If you can see what is occurring as kind of neutral, like, because what happens, right? Somebody will say something, we'll go, oh my goodness, I can't believe they said that. But again, that's because it's coming through our filter of perception. Granted, what they say may be unkind or mean or cruel, but it's up to us in terms of giving it that energy as a response. You can go, oh yeah, whatever. Or you could go, oh my goodness, I'm so offended. Or you could go, they're obviously having a bad day. You are the one who is choosing how you respond to what is occurring. That is huge in terms of accountability. And if you want to be authentic, then you will do what it takes to be accountable to the max. Right? Your life is your creation. If you do not like any aspect of your life, you get to deconstruct it and recreate it, which is awesome, right? As a limitless being in a body, you are the creator. Everything that you're experiencing in your life right now is the direct response from all the choices that you've already made. Where you live, what you buy, what car you're driving, what job you have, what relationship you're having. Some of it may be driven by subconscious patterns and limiting beliefs, right? And again, even having an awareness of that, if there's something in my life that I'm not really enjoying or not really loving, there's a good chance that that's directly connected. Or are you actually being the person who's willing enough to kind of go, you know what? I'm actually going to do that self-inquiry, that self-inventory, to look inside myself and see what I believe in myself, because that is connected to all the choices that I've already made. And if I don't love those choices, how can I change my belief so I make different choices, i.e. going back to the person who's working 80 hours a week and they want to spend more time with their family. They're running a belief system that says, on some level, I have to do that. That's not true. You can create another form of income. You can start thinking about other ways to adjust your lifestyle. You could ask to work less hours. There's always an opportunity. You're an infinite being in a body. You have ability to create like nothing else, but we get limited because we get stuck in those thought processes, and that can directly contribute to being inauthentic. And I know, right? But again, there's so much freedom. I know sometimes when we look at this stuff, it can feel painful, right? And confronting and like, oh, like, ouch, this is, but again, if you can just allow yourself to be present to the emotion and allow yourself to be willing to explore it, there is so much freedom on the other side. So much freedom. It's worth it. It is worth the struggle, right? It's worth the effort. It's worth showing up to. It is worth, like once upon a time, like when it came to like doing personal development and looking at myself, I would be like, oh, this is hideous, right? I don't want to look at this stuff. But now when I have like a block or something that's, needs opening up, I actually get really excited because I'm like, I'm going to learn something and it's going to help me to grow and evolve. And it's almost, in a way, it's like you're constantly scanning for anywhere you have limitations, so you can kind of bust those blocks open and you can move into a greater expanded frequency of energy and reality. It's the best way to live, because you think about it, you're always expanding. When you're always expanding energetically and growing as a person, you can create more of what it is that you want. You don't have those limitations. You're in the energies of bliss. It's better for your health, like I was hearing from Dr. Joe Dispenza this morning. Okay, so inauthentic people, they judge others. Right? Oh, I could go on about that all day, right? Blame, criticism, judgment. All judgment too is self-judgment, folks. When you're judging other people, because again, you're going through their own filter of reality. Right, so if you're not seeing through your filter correctly and you're judging or you're criticizing, you're blaming other people, that's your filter, right? It's nobody else's, it's yours. It's how you perceiving yourself and kind of sending your energy out through that filter into reality. And also what happens energetically, unfortunately, if you're not supersonically aware of where you're blaming or judging other people, what will happen is the universe will reflect that back to you, right? You're running the energy of it. So the universe goes, okay, you're running the energy of that. So it often brings you things that you can end up blaming or judging, right? Because you're in that energy, that loop of energy where you're looking for it, where you focus your attention, that's where your energy goes. If you're in blame or judgment and looking for things to blame and judge, you'll find more of them. You want to break the cycle and go, okay, well, what does life look like if people were blameless, if I was blameless? You know, this is huge in terms of letting go of guilt and returning to innocence. They don't think things through clearly, and authentic people, right? They'll get stuck in the muddled. You know, they won't find the clarity. Again, it's the opposite of authentic people. You know, they're thoughtful. They think about things. They think about things clearly. They think about things from other people's point of view. You know, not thinking through clearly doesn't mean that maybe it just means that you're not giving other people the benefit of the doubt, giving other people spaciousness, and also yourself, so you can actually find the solution. Because often what happens is people get so fixated, again, like I said, on the problem, they don't just create some space for the solution to appear. And I know that sounds a little bit airy-fairy, but just next time you have a problem or an issue, if you just kind of park it and then go, if I could look at this 360 degrees, like 360 other ways, what might be possible in terms of finding the solution? Guarantee you will open up energy and you'll get on a roll, right? You'll find a million solutions for your one problem. Even if you think at the moment, oh, that's just a fantasy, even thinking about it creates the mental space for something new to come in, right? You want to play that with your mind, so you're opening up the energy to allow the universe, right, those universal frequencies of energy where you get ideas from, to drop in and bring you your perfect outcome. Okay, hostile sense of humour. Inauthentic people, again, right? And watch out for this. You know, if you know somebody and they're really funny, are they doing it from a place of kindness and loving, or are they doing it from a place of kind of attack or poking other people? Want to be aware of that. Unable to express emotion clearly. And this is actually really common, folks, right? Like if you're not feeling like you're being 100% authentic, you probably have an awareness and an understanding of that in your body at the moment. If you're not being completely authentic, you'll feel it, right? It will feel kind of like you're enclosed in some ways, that you're feeling a little trapped, that you're feeling a little held back. Don't beat yourself up about it. Just be aware, right? And also too, start asking yourself some questions. Are you able to express your emotions easily and clearly? Are you able to identify your emotions? You know, one of the questions I ask when people start to come and work with me is, are you aware if you're immediately in physical pain? And people often are like, what's that got to do with what we're going to be doing? But the point is, it's about awareness. How aware are you of your body? If you have an awareness of your body, you'll have an awareness of your emotions. Your emotions, right? The energy can pop around your body. Maybe it's in your throat. Maybe it moves down to your root. Maybe you've unprocessed the emotion, so you've stored it in the back of the heart. We want to bring awareness to our emotions. We want to start being able to identify them. Like as children, we would say, use your words, right? Do you know how to identify all your emotions? Can you be present to it and then recognize what it is? Because often, sometimes with emotions especially, there can be a lot of them present at the same time, right? Maybe there's anxiety, for example, is one of those ones that I say often has a lot in it. It can have fear, doubt, disappointment, hurt, all in the energy of anxiety. So starting to really think, how good am I at identifying my emotions? How good am I at being present to them? How good am I at bearing witness, especially to some of the more intense emotions? And I know I talk about it, guys, like, oh, it's a walk in the park. It comes from years of practice. Okay, so no matter where you're at in your journey right now, be kind, right? Be loving to yourself. If you're not in a place where you can just, identify and be present to emotion, because there's a lot in it, right? You have to identify it, and then you have to be willing to be present to it. And when you're willing to be present to it, we need to know how to facilitate ourselves through being with an emotion, especially if it's a really intense emotion, because otherwise, if we don't, we can end up creating more trauma for ourselves. That's why we need to do a facilitation of emotions in a really safe and trustworthy environment. And then, of course, to be in the space where the energy gets released, because that's what emotion is, energy and motion. It looks to move, to be released. So then we can experience that expansiveness. Okay, so it's actually, there's a lot in being present to our emotions and doing it from a place of love and kindness and acceptance. So again, if you're inauthentic, you're probably not identifying, expressing, being present to your own emotions. You're probably not using I am statements, I am feeling upset about this, or I am angry, or I feel hurt, or I feel, right? You're probably maybe more in that blame or judgment. I can't believe you did that. You always, or you never, right? Let's move those energies out of your vocabulary. If you're saying that to your partner, your children, your loved ones, you never or you always, be aware of that, right? That is inauthentic language, because nobody, never or always, right? That is your interpretation of their behavior. Again, and I know the ego can rally on this stuff, right? The ego can go, oh my goodness, when the ego hears things that are truthful, it can get annoyed. Okay, so sometimes even people listening to the radio show, right, they're like, oh my gosh, I got really triggered, or I felt really annoyed, or I wasn't ready to hear that. I'm just sending you lots of love and light. I know sometimes looking at truth can be confronting, and I also know I've been doing this for a while, so I'm in a space where I'm just like, I'm calling it like it is. But sometimes if we're not in that space or awareness, it can be a little bit like, oof, it can feel a little bit like, oh my goodness, there's energy on this. There's a charge there on this. Okay, so let's have a look at some other ones. Not learning from your mistakes, right? If you're inauthentic, you won't be learning from your mistakes. You'll be repeating the same pattern of energy. And again, I get it. This is really common, right? This is really common as humans. Often when it comes to our soul core or wounding, right? Our wounding, depending on what it is or what the circumstance is, if we have a big wound in our life, that energy or that pattern of behavior can ripple out into other areas of our life. Say we've experienced heartbreak, and then, that can ripple out into our business. Or what's another example? Maybe our relationship with money is affecting our value proposition in terms of our self-worth. Okay, so, again, being in that space of, am I learning from my mistakes? Am I repeating the same thing over and over again? Do I feel like no matter what I do, the same stuff keeps on happening, or the same kind of energy or pattern keeps on presenting itself. If that is true for you, that's kind of like, and again, it can feel like, oh my goodness, what is going on? That is your soul's way of saying, this is a soul lesson that we're wanting you to learn, because on the other side of this is your ultimate freedom. Okay, and I know when you're in it, it can be a grind and it can feel like hard work and you can be confused, right? Your soul is looking to communicate with you in those circumstances. Again, for me, when I was at the bank, honestly, I look back now and I just think, oh my goodness, my higher self must have been going, are you deaf? Right? Because it was like, you're not lined up with this job. You need to leave, right? And I stayed there. Oh, how long did I stay there? Maybe 2 years, another 18 months after my job got disestablished, and then my ego went to town, and it was like, I can't believe they've done this to me. But literally, if I was looking at my higher self was just saying, you need to get out of there. It's not for you, right? We're giving you the information, so hopefully you get the awareness, right, that it's time to go. Which was really funny too, because as circumstances worked out, I did leave, and then I kind of ended up going back to the bank and working in the earthquake support team and processing earthquake checks and things like that, and doing conveyancing for the red zone. And and then what happened, right, is they were shrinking that team, and I had done my angel cards that morning and got career transition. So I already knew that I wasn't going to get the job, right? But this time round, I was like, I've got it, this isn't for me. My soul's calling me to do something else. So when the lady called me and said, I'm really sorry, but you haven't got the job. And I just said, I know, right? And she kept on going into this explanation of, because I'd been there one of the longest, and they'd chosen other people who'd been there for a shorter period of time. But I was fine with that, right? Because my soul had other plans, right? And it also knew, it didn't know fear or lack. So it was interesting, right, to go from that place of like the first time around, I was like holding on to it, and my ego was thrashing around with it and trying to control it. And the next time around, just being like, I'm just going to trust my soul and my intuition. And, I said to her, I know. You don't need to say anymore, I know. It's all good. I'm ready to go. So massive transition, right? But inauthenticity, thrashing around with the control and my ego and going, this isn't right because somebody's doing it to me, right? Blame and judgment, into this is perfect, right? This is perfect. I don't know what's going to happen next, but I trust that my soul is going to bring me what I need in order to be able to create the reality that I'm looking to create. Oh my goodness, gosh, I can talk. We've only got 7 minutes left, so I'm actually going to say goodbye to Facebook. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I very much appreciate it. If you want to connect with me, you can see the website address there. You can go on and click book with me for a free 30-minute consultation if you're interested in learning more about what it takes to be authentic so you can experience freedom. All right, folks, bye for now. Alrighty, so today we've been talking about being authentic and what authenticity looks like and what being inauthentic looks like. So we've talked about how authenticity, people are going to be introspective. They're going to know what motivates them. They're going to be able to look at uncomfortable truths, right, and sit with that and be with our emotions, those contracted energies. They don't look to others for approval. They live to their own values. They don't surrender to social pressure. They know what it is to meet their own needs, and they follow their own internal compass rather than anything outside of themselves. So, authentic people, we like authentic people because they're trustworthy, right? They're genuine. They are what they say they are. They have passion and commitment for what they say and do. In my respect, it's like what you think, what you say, what you do are lined up, right? You're speaking your truth, and you're doing it even if other people don't appreciate what you're saying, right? Now, I've had to learn that obviously but through becoming an intuitive coach, and definitely, what's the saying? A speaker of truth has no friends. right? Because what you're doing often a lot of the times is, like I'm very aware of the fact, even doing the radio show, and to all you beautiful people who are listening, if you are listening and you've ever been triggered by what I've said, please know that I send you my love. I know what it's like to be that person. I remember listening to Wayne Dyer myself and just being like, oh, I can't believe this guy. It's lucky for, easy for him. He's already at that place of, where I wanted to be, basically. So I was judging and criticizing him, right? Even as I was listening to it. So I know that happens when somebody says, yes, there's a way out, but hey, it's not necessarily the easy way. Right? It's going to take some effort. It's going to take some self-assessment. It's going to take some looking at yourself and getting comfortable with that. Again, we talked about, that authentic people have a realistic view of reality, right? That you're miraculous. That's realistic. Not as in the mundane, right? Not as in mediocre. You are literally a miracle. That is real, right? The chances of you being here on the planet, I don't even know. It's something like 1 in 5 billion gazillion, right? That is a realistic perception of reality. The heightened emotion that comes with that too. Authentic people are accepting of themselves and others. They're not sitting there judging, criticizing, blaming themselves, living in guilt. They're free of that. They're thoughtful, right? They're aware. They're thinking about how other people are showing up, what it is that motivates other people. They have a non-hostile sense of humor. They're coming from a place of love. They don't need to criticize other people to get a laugh. They're able to express emotions freely and clearly, and they learn from their mistakes and they understand their motivations. You have to know yourself to know what motivates you. What am I motivated by? Freedom, pleasure, and abundance, right? Like I'm the person who wants to have those experiences because it took me such a long time to figure out what my values were. But eventually it became really apparent. I love to travel. I love the freedom that comes from travel. I love, experiencing pleasure. Like who doesn't, right? Who doesn't want to be in that space of going, life is amazing. I get to experiencing these beautiful experiences, whether it's a walk in nature that can bring you so much pleasure, whether it's doing business from a place of pleasure. I've got something squeaky going on. I don't know if it's the chair or this the headset. Sorry, folks. But being in that space, right, of understanding what your values are, and the other one for me, of course, is abundance. Who doesn't want to feel abundant? Abundance feels like wholeness. Abundance feels like there's no fear, there's no lack, there's no doubt, there's money everywhere, like cash can fall out of the sky. That is the feeling of abundance. That's what people are reaching for when they go to buy a lotto ticket, right? $43 million last night. I have no idea if it's been struck or not, but that's what people are reaching for when they want to get, when they buy a lotto ticket. They are looking for that feeling that they're hoping that the money will create within them. The secret to that and to manifesting is to create that feeling already, that heightened emotion. Bring your heart into it, bring your feelings into it, and you can create that in your reality through vibration, right? Like literally, if you line up energetically with the vibration of what it is that you want, especially when it comes to money, you'll have that as a physical experience. Inauthenticity looks like self-deception, lying to yourself, looking to other people for approval, being judgmental of yourself or others, not thinking things through clearly, having a hostile sense of humor, unable to express yourself and your emotions clearly and freely, not learning from your mistakes, and not understanding what motivates you. So hopefully, guys, that's created a little bit more clarity on authenticity. And again, what can you do? I mean, I could talk a little bit too about defense mechanisms here, about how, I talked about the mask, about going to work with armor on, and about how we need to be willing to take it off. And really one of the biggest ways to do that is to be vulnerable, not just vulnerable with other people, but vulnerable with ourselves, to be willing to be the person who's going to go, I'm afraid of maybe looking inside of myself, but I'm also willing to love what's there. That is the secret. I've talked about that before. If you have your pain and your hurt and your suffering and your rage turn up, you want to love it, not reject it, not abandon it, not avoid it, not suppress it. What did they say? Suppress, depress, repress. The resolution to that is to express yourself. So allowing yourself to be in a space, right, where you can take some time to be with yourself. Being authentic means, what do I believe in? What is it that I'm passionate about? What is it that I'm not passionate about? What is it that I value? Am I living to my values? What is it that I have to say? What does speaking my truth look like? Hopefully, guys, this has given you some information in terms of going out and choosing to be more authentic. The feeling of freedom that comes from that. Do you know how awesome it is to just kind of show up and not ever check yourself in terms of what it is that you say, because you trust what you say is coming from a loving place, even if it's, it's painful for people to hear because it's going through their ego. Right? And again, we can talk more about that on another call sometimes in regards to being responsible of looking at what is ego and what is spirit. Anyway, folks, as always, it is a pleasure to connect with you here on the Find Your Bliss radio show. If you're interested in joining the free tribe where you can get daily support and inspiration, please go to facebook.com and find the Intuitive Life Academy. Look for the group, join the group. We're in there every day. I share a lot of videos in there. I share a lot of free resources. There's 11 tools. I uploaded that list, 11 tools for manifestation in the group now under the units. You can go in and watch the videos too in terms of how to shift your energy, frequency and vibration. I'm sending you so much love and light. I hope you have an amazing day. Wherever you are, know that you are infinite and divine, and I love you heaps. All right, folks, lots of love. Talk to you soon. Bye for now. Bye.